if you do not worship without Adya Shakti, then it is equivalent to Abhichara. There is a half sloka in one of the Vasanas of Kali that is mentioned. So where you need to sit for a Vedic yajna, you need to get married. Only then you are allowed to sit for certain yajnas and things like that. Same the Upasana of Shakti became prominent, and the Upasana of Shiva receded to the background in these parts, in the proper Shakta Tantra process.
You once explained in great detail what all stages does the English term liberation pack in itself, but not enlightenment. Can you please do that if it's okay?
No, this question is not specific to the topic we have, but very briefly, enlightenment is different grades of very high order spiritual experience. For example, since we are on this on the topic of Tantra, so when we look at the first 5 elements of the Kashmiri Shaivism, that starts from the Shuddha Tattvas, and then you have the Ishvara Tattva, and then beyond that you have Sadashiva. So the moment from the layer of the Shuddha Tattvas, you are already enlightened, by the way. You cannot enter into the realm of the Shuddha Tattva until you attain what is conventionally known as enlightenment. It's a very high state. Only thing is, in Shuddha Tattva, you attain it through the power of the mantras. The mantras are living entities there. They are like enlightened beings. Like, imagine a mantra to be like a sage that pulls you there to that state, and you experience that freedom. Only there's going to be slight shade in that freedom. So shade means, for example, as they explained to it, there is the concept of you are free. You experience what is known as the aham of Shiva, which is the ultimate sense of I, which is not your ego, but it is an I that creates the universe. That I you experience. But at the same time, you also experience the universe. So that aham is there, that idam is there, you are here, and the world is also there. World has not vanished. Beyond that, you go into the Ishvara Tattva, where the sense of the world slightly recedes back a little bit. You realize that the world is there, the world is your projection. Then you go to Sadashiva Tattva, and then you see that the sense of aham becomes even stronger inside. And you believe that the world is there, but it is within me. The world is not outside of me. And then beyond that, you go to the Shiva and the Shakti Tattvas and the Anuttara Tattva. Those perhaps cannot be experienced through a human body. Those are tattvas very, very high. The inexplicable. I mean, you can only have a mental, theoretical formula understanding of it. But experiential understanding, perhaps you need to be nothing less than a rishi to go to that state. I'm just guessing. So enlightenment is all of this. The moment you enter into the realm of Shuddha Tattva, you are enlightened. And as you keep going higher and higher, there are certain more subtle changes that will happen, certain changes in the caliber of the experience that will happen. So in that sense, enlightenment is always there is a, very broadly we use a threshold that, okay, after you cross this, then you reach enlightenment. No, beyond that also there are gradations of enlightenment. Like there is this typical, very nice example that I read in a book. Suppose there's a glass of water and there is water in the ocean. Both of them are water. So both of them have the feeling of we are one with the Brahman, whatever way you look at it. So this is also water, that is also water. The water in an ocean can actually support an ecosystem. It can create a cyclone, it can create a storm, it can create various things. So the difference is that both of them are enlightenment, but one has higher caliber of Shakti available in that enlightenment. So like this, there are gradations.
Does the Shakti Tantra have its origins in Shaivagam? And if so, how did it evolve into a self-sustained spiritual ecosystem?
I think we addressed this point in the last talk session I had. But basically, it's not just the Shaiva Agamas, but it also had the Bhairava Agamas from which it evolved. Additionally, there was the Kola Tantra that evolved from Eastern India, basically, from around the temple of Kamakhya. That's where the Kalika Puran, etc. was written. And then eventually there were texts and other things that came up, specific Tantric texts which further formulated the path and sort of, took the Upasana of Shakti became prominent, and the Upasana of Shiva receded to the background in these parts, in the proper Shakta Tantras eventually.
Which is the one Tantric text that you would highly recommend as a serious practitioner reading thoroughly to enhance their body of knowledge? These days, most English literate sadhaks get introduced to Tantra through Robert Svoboda's books, but is there any other source?
That's a difficult question, actually. Yeah, most people start with the Agora series of books by Dr. Svoboda, and then there are, some of the preliminary texts that were translated by Arthur Avalon. Those are also decent. But see, if you're a practitioner, if you're into the path, then you have to read the tantras that are given prominence in your sampradaya. And you have to understand them, not just read them, like reading any texts. You have to do your practice, you have to read them. Again, do your practice, again, read them. So that way your understanding of the path will become a little bit broader. But by and large, there are most of the literature that I've found till date is mostly either they sort of hyperbolize the practices and make it look something very esoteric, like another Harry Potter series going on, things like that. Or on the other end of the spectrum, they'll make it extremely technical, so technical that somebody who's outside of the system will not make sense of it. I cannot recommend any specific book because I haven't found anything that sort of covers the middle ground properly. About the Aghora books, they're very good to read, but they're only books good to read if you are at I believe personally that if you are at the very preliminary stage of sadhana. Once you enter into the field of sadhana, there are actually, in fact, yes, there are books which are quite good, but they are not in English. They are in local languages. I mean, I know quite a few very, very good books in Bengali. There are books, very good books, I'm sure, in other Indian languages as well, that speak of tantric methods of sadhana, etc. Or at least the biographies of actual saints or saintly siddhas who have walked this path. So when you read those biographies, sometimes you may find some clue to how your sadhana is working, or if there is a conversational text between somebody and a high caliber expert. So I know in Bengali there are a few, but English I don't think I've come across anything like that. It's either too academic kind of scholarly text written, or the other end of the spectrum is too Harry Potter kind of miraculous text written. It's miracles are a part of Tantra, part of any Upasana for that matter, not just Tantra. And what is miracle? The moment there is a change inside, you will see things happening in a way which is difficult to explain in the normal rationality and logic. So that's what it is. So I don't think I can effectively answer any question, but the best option is if you have to progress in the path, then start your sadhana and then find out the tantric texts that are pertaining to the sampradaya that you are connected to and the deity that you are worshipping, and read those texts, and not once, read them multiple times. Initial times when you read them, you'll not even figure out. It will seem like just like a document of very technical document. Okay, this is a mantra, you should do it this number of times, this is the mandala, etc., etc. But as your mind becomes more subtle to the power of the mantra, you will find inside those writings also there are fantastic clues mentioned, certain hints and clues, etc., which can make your practice even stronger. That is only if you are in the path of sadhana. If you're not in the sadhana, then just reading a tantric text is meaningless actually. You'll perhaps not even figure out many of the injunctions mentioned there, because it's not only about knowing the language. There are certain areas where the language is even mentioned as slightly coded language, so that the non-initiates cannot understand them. So there's one Upasana of Kali where it is mentioned that if you do not worship without Adya Shakti, then it is equivalent to Abhichara. There is a half sloka in one of the Upasanas of Kali that is mentioned. So people, if you just read it, you will think that, okay, I have to worship Adya Shakti and then you have to worship Kali. But Adya Shakti here is a term that specifically means that you'll have to do this Upasana along with your partner, along with your wife. Then only it will work. But instead of that, they use the term Adya Shakti. So here again, behind that also there is one comma. How does, why exactly is the wife called an Adya? Because Tantric Upasana, both husband and wife can do this together. It's much like the original Vedic systems where, if you have to sit for a Vedic yajna, you need to get married. Only then you are allowed to sit for certain yajnas and things like that. Same way in the Tantric systems, there are certain Upasanas where both husband and wife can participate. So like this, there are different places where certain language that is used is not exactly the sense that will come out if you just read it like that. So that is why there is the importance of the sampradaya also.